Hello, everybody. Welcome to our webinar today with the Migration Center team again. Today's topic evolves all around test data management with Migration Center. And before we start, let me do one quick slide of housekeeping, as always. Please note that all attendees are muted during the whole session. Should you have any questions, remarks, inquiries, please take a look at your right-hand side. Per default, the GoToWebinar panel has a questions box, and just enter your questions in there. We'll collect them and answer them in a dedicated Q&A session at the end of this webinar. Please also note that we record this webinar, and once we have it processed, we'll share it with you afterwards. Now, without any further ado, let me hand over to our first speaker, Mike Uhlenberg, our Senior Consultant at FME Products, who will conduct this webinar today.
Great, thank you, Mark. Thank you for the introduction. Yeah, hello everyone and welcome to the webinar. Yeah, my name is Mike and I will show you today how you can manage test data management with Migration Center. So first, some words about Migration Center for the ones of you who never saw the product or don't know what Migration Center can do also for other use cases. And then we dive into the topic test data management, TDM, do a live demo, and after that a question and answer session. So if you have any questions, put them in the questions panel, as Mark said, and we will discuss and speak about them and answer them after the live demo, basically. Okay. So test data management with Migration Center. So what is the value? What is the use cases? How is the process looking like? And what connectors do we offer for that use case? Yeah, first, Migration Center. So what is Migration Center in general? It is an out-of-the-box migration tool or product. So you install the Migration Center and then you are able to migrate documents from one platform to another. We support many different platforms. So what it makes it special, like we really focus on complex migration projects. Migration Center has a very strong transformation engine. And while doing that, we try to focus on high performance, high volume data migrations, because often, of course, the question is how long will it take? So we save really time compared to custom scripts and developments, while we make sure that we are compliant at any times, that the systems are not down, so there are not downtimes between or while the migration is ongoing. And we really focus on a migration process where the product is really supporting you from A to Z, let's say, for the whole process. Yeah, some short facts about Migration Center. Yeah, it's 100% out of the box. So what I said, so most customers just buy the product, install it in their environment, and then you can start to migrate. You don't need any additional programming or scripting. So everything is like with the client. So there's 3 components, and the client is the one you control the whole migration process. We have many customers, and we have been over 13 years on the market. Right. So back then we started with a migration scripting and development within the FME as a service company. And from time to time, we reuse these scripts and development. And yeah, let's say 14, 15 years ago, we decided to build a product out of it, which is very successful in the market. We have grown till today with the connectors to the different platforms. So we offer over 160 passes, so from source to target platform. So that's a lot, and we're still growing. So we're always keen on adding new connectors to our systems. Yeah, and then we offer no downtime migration. So that really means you can migrate and also create test data. We come to that topic in a second, while the systems are up and running and the users are still working on the document management systems. So everything can be done more or less in the background, and it's really good option to do the delta, to use the delta mechanism to really have a very little downtime window if we're talking about large migrations, but else the systems are up and running. Yeah, we are fit for regulated systems. Also the test data management. We're using that our customers in the pharmaceutical environment. So also the bar is like hanging very high here. So we have completed the audits and we are compliant for all the different processes. So common use case with Migration Center use cases. So yeah, I don't want to go into detail in each and every of them, but the Migration Center, as I said, is a migration platform. So we deliver the whole process stack, let's say, and use case stack around a migration. So migration means basically copy a document from a source to a target while doing, or in between doing, transformation and attribute mapping and while compliant with security and this and that. So the most common one is of course a migration in general. So you, for example, you replace a system with another DMS, so you do migrate, or you consolidate systems when you, for example, have a merging and acquisition done, so that you consolidate one or several legacy platforms, maybe systems or applications, into one new repository. And it also helps you when you roll out a new system and for archiving and decommissioning. So in general, it's very, I mean, we have very many use cases where the Migration Center product really helps you. But today we want to focus on the test data generation, like the test data management with Migration Center, how to generate test data and manipulate or change and transform the test data to fulfill all the different requirements. So test data management or requirements. So what is TDM? I mean, everyone knows what test data is, and simply it is to fill a test repository with data, right? You have a production platform or system up and running, and now you, for example, you want to develop a new application and you need some test data in the test or dev or stage system, whatever it's called. So the easiest requirement is basically, okay, we want the data in our dev repository as well. But the first question came to mind, you want only to copy a subset, right? So you don't want to, maybe you have millions of records in your productive system, so you only want a subset of it, which is most likely enough for the test scenarios and for the development. So that you only copy a subset, and so we need the ability to choose a document scope, to choose specific document or document ranges, or document types, whatever it is in the corresponding system, and only copy or migrate these in the test system. The next one, it could be that we have classified metadata or security or sensitive data in general. So maybe this should not be migrated into the stage or dev system because the security rights and the hardware connections, everything is not that secure on these dev systems. So it is most of the cases, it's a requirement also to not move classified metadata, or I mean change the values, blacken them out or conceal them so they are not represented in the test systems. And then the third big one is the sensitive content. So it might be that you do not want, it goes along with the classified metadata. You do not want to have set special content, let's say, which has a security class A or something like this, to be inside the test system and dev system. So there must be an option to not move the content or even create a dummy content file for the test applications in the test systems. So yeah, so that's the three technical requirements. And the other one is maybe that you want to do it on a time-based, time-based. So that means you want to do it on a regular basis. For example, you want to create the test data in each development cycle or something like that. So for example, every some months, or you want to kind of sync your productive system and the subset of it with the development system on a maybe weekly based time scenario. Right, so the test data management capabilities in Migration Center, of course, do address these requirements. So in Migration Center, you're like if you do a migration, you are in full control of the whole process. So you can, of course, do an initial fill of the test repository with data, and you can also do a copy. I mean, you can, for example, migrate this data into the dev system, and then after that, the same data into the stage system. And you can also manipulate the metadata doing that. Also, you can sync test data periodically. So that means you, for example, after the initial fill, I will show you that in the demo as well. you create a scheduler, and then you can really do the same creation of test data in a sync manner. So that means if something is updated or new documents are being created, you automatically get this data also into the test system. So the test system is updated in the data. Migration Center is doing that with what I call here advanced transformation rules. So basically, it's the transformation engine in Migration Center, which is, very flexible anyway. So with special transformation rules, you can really limit the metadata set. So you scan, for example, 20 attributes, and then with the transformation rules editor, you easily remove some attributes you don't need in the test system. And also with the transformation rules, you can conceal or blacken specific attribute values. So you are totally flexible. For example, depending on the target platform or test repository, you may blacken or conceal different attribute values. Also up on different criteria. It's very dynamic. So you set up transformation rules also to decide, for example, if that value is this, then we do conceal the attribute value, or you're totally free and flexible to do all those things. And also we, of course, offer to not copy content files or create dummy content files. So this is also done in we also offer no content copy migrations. And for test scenarios, most of the case, it makes really sense to not have the real content files in the test repositories, because normally you do not need the content of a document. But that's, of course, also possible. But on the other hand, it also saves a lot of time during the technical migration process. So when we skip the content from a source system, the metadata creation is definitely faster. And so you get your updated metadata, test metadata faster at the end of the day. Yeah, our auditable migration process or processes. So this is a basic process in Migration Center where we divided the whole process in basically 6 phases, from analyze and extract to import. And also within the test data scenario, you are mostly work, like, let's say, once in the transform and map phase and the validate phase. So basically that's where the magic happens in terms of transforming the attribute values and conceal attributes or skip the content, change the content location, or update attribute values and so on. So the process works like you scan, like in a migration, you scan a source platform, you choose in the scanner already, you choose which documents you want to scan. You can filter that with a query, like by attributes, by folder, by object types, or whatever that is in the source system. And once you have scanned your scope of documents, you are in the organize phase where you put the documents into different mix sets or migration set, what we call it. So one migration set has one specific set of transformation rules. And with those rules, then in the steps 3, 4, and 5, you create your metadata. So you could create, and I will show you that in the demo, like metadata one by one. So you have a original, let's say, copy of the scanned metadata. But then in that step, you also define your transformation rules to do that, what you need in test scenarios, for example, leave attributes out or conceal attributes and skip the content. And the migration sets is really helpful here because you can create different migration set and different transformation rules set for each migration set. So that could be, you have one test scenario for the stage system where the data should be quite near the original data from the source system. And so you call that like maybe stage migration set. And then you could create another migration set for the development environment where you have maybe loose restrictions. So you will not put the original metadata in that. And the good thing in Migration Center is really that you have, once you created such a mix set, you can reuse that migration set at any time also for other scans, also in the scheduler. So you don't need to reinvent the wheel anytime you do create test data. So you can create different Mixits for different purposes, and then you use different scans into that. So that really allows you to use or reuse the work you have done once in the transformation rules section for each and every test data creation, which is normally from that point on very similar to each other, right? So every test data creation or update of test data will be done with the same rules most likely. And if there's a change in the rules, like in the rules of how to create or how you are allowed to create test data, you simply change that in the transformation rules of a specific Mixit, which is already existing. Yeah, then we do the import, and after the import, the documents should be or are in the target platform. You get the info back in Migration Center, so you see, okay, all these documents have been created, and now they are ready to be used as test data in the target system. Yeah, to automate, again, on a time-based scenario, to automate the test data creation process, that means really you keep the test data updated. I will also show you that one in the demo very briefly. So we have a scheduler built in Migration Center, and this scheduler can be used for every kind of scanner, migration set, and importer, so every path from source to target. And you can really granular define the scheduler to do that work like once every while, once every month, or once every year. And you can granularly specify the scope of documents you want to have in that specific process, right? So, yeah, as an example, some companies do that. You have a productive system, for example, and you have two different stage systems like test and development. And so with some schedulers and some maybe two Mixits here, you can really configure the Migration Center to populate 30% of the data out of production system or of the production system in the test environment. And you do that, for example, every 6 months. So the Migration Center automatically in the background really populates the latest data from prod to test. And it will, if you like, it will update the test data accordingly. So you always have 30% of the productive system in your test system. And then you can set up another scheduler and migration set way of, as an example, pull 5% out of the objects, metadata, and content files into the dev system. And you do that every 6 months, or you can have a different time period here. And again, as I said, you can have different rules to do that, right? From test to dev, maybe there are other rules. So you have less attributes and metadata. Maybe there's no content or dummy content in the dev repository at the end. So the whole process can really be set up to do that in the background for you, like automated. You set it up once, you configure everything, and then you set up the scheduler, and it will do the job for you. You can also get an email report every time it does something. So yeah, with that, you can really automate the whole process, and the test data is automatically created, updated, and be ready to be used in the systems you need them. Okay, so enough spoken. I wanted to keep the presentation, the slides short. So I will jump into the demo. So I switch to my virtual machine. And now you see the Migration Center open already. So yeah, as I told you, the Migration Center is the client where you do configure the whole migration configuration and setup. So once you have installed the database and a job server in Migration Center, you can start the client, connect to the database, and then you see you add your first job server. The job server is the unit which is extracting or scanning the content from a source system, and then also responsible for importing and creating the test data in the target system. So once you have one, you are able to start to create test data. So in this demo, I want to show you it on an example of Documentum. But in general, you will see that in Migration Center, every system works very similar once it has been scanned into the Migration Center. So it doesn't matter where you come from and where you go to. You can even create test data from, I don't know, from Documentum into SharePoint or or whatever platform, right? You are totally free and flexible to populate the test data in different directions. And it works for all the platforms. It works very similar from the process. Okay, so first I want to not install the plugin. I want to scan test data. So let's say this is our productive system, and now I want to, as an example, I want to scan this folder here and create a copy of the test data with all the attributes and all the metadata and content files. So I just copy the folder path, go into the migration center, into scanners. There I already have one Documentum scanner, and I will put this path into that. So I also have options here and parameters to scan all the different features of the corresponding platform, like versions and rendition and everything. So you can do that, or if you need that for your test data, but you can also skip it if you don't need it, or you don't want it, or you're not allowed to have it in the test system. So in this case, I will just leave everything off, and I just have the export location where the content is temporarily stored. Okay, so I scan, I save the scanner, I scan it with clicking on run, and now it should run, and you see the status. It scans the documents from Documentum. So in this case, it's nothing different than a migration, because we scan, we transform, and import. But now, I mean, I will show you how to create test data. But in this time, I don't have another repository or another platform for this demo purposes. I will just use the same repository here and just create a new cabinet in there, just to mimic that we are normally creating the test data on a test or dev system, right? But it's no different. It's just a different repository which needs to be configured in the importer. Okay, so first let's do that one. So we have 160 objects scanned in Migration Center. We have metadata here. It's kind of a project file. So we have the Documentum meter, as well as a customer ID, a department, and I think a project number or something, right? So these are our custom attributes at this point. Okay, let me close the scanner completely, and then I go to migration sets. And here I will just create a new migration set so that you see the whole process, how to create a migration set for a test data population. So let me call that test data full copy. Now I choose where I come from. You see here already we have many different the paths I've spoken about. So you just need to choose the one we just used today. So it's Documentum to Documentum document. And now I go ahead and select that file scan in Migration Center. So I have these 160 objects, and I want to create those as test data in a 1-by-1 copy. What I could do always is also to exclude objects by values. So once you have scanned the productive system, you might select all the whole scan into that Mixit, and then you could go ahead and filter object out by attribute values. So for example, you could choose to not have GIF files or PDF files populated as test data in your target repository. So you would simply exclude them from that Mixit, so they will not be created. But in this case, I will just leave them in here, and I will just select the objects. So we have 160 objects ready for our test creation. So I will do a 1-by-1, which means I open the transformation rules editor. I click on generate rules, and now I have all the different source attribute values and source attributes in here. So as this is a 1-by-1, I only need a get value from the source, which is already done. But I want to change the DCTM object link because I want, as I told you, I want to create a new cabinet to mimic the other test repository. So I go ahead and use a transformation function to manipulate the attribute value of the folder path. And here I choose concatenate because I want the original object link concatenated with a starting folder. For example, we call it test data full copy, and we append the previous stop, the original DCTM object link. So yeah, that's one by one. I only changed the path, and now I will also do the association, which is in our case an FME project object type. And here I just click on auto associate because everything is basically the same. Okay, that's it. So I save it. I click on apply transformation and validation. And now I can go ahead and create an importer, which I already did. So the importer is also very easy. Like I import the objects here and nothing else is set. So I add the Mixit to that importer and I migrate it into our documentum. Let's see if we get something. Right, we have now copied basically that folder, you saw it, and now it should recreate the folder one by one. So I mean that's the easiest way to generate test data, and normally this is now another repository, right? Oh, actually it finished with some errors. Let's see the errors here. Error linking object to the folder. Oh, I made a mistake with the folder path here. Let me quickly change that. So that's the beauty of a live webinar. You can see any kind of errors. So actually, I guess I forgot the slash at the beginning. So we just reset the previous made transformation. And now we check the value actually. So we can make sure that the folder path is correct. It looks good, like test data, full copy, and then the whole path. Okay, let's try that one again. So the folders have been created, you saw it, but the documents were not in. So let's see what it's doing now. Okay, now it's importing the documents. Okay, but that was the easiest case. So I did basically a one-by-one migration, and the documents have been copied with all its metadata and content. So the next one I want to do is to quickly show you how you limit the metadata. So I just take the next one here as an example, and maybe I copy the scanner here, call it limit metadata, and I just give it the other folder path so it can scan the new folder. So while a scan is running, you can click on jobs anytime, and you see a progress bar in percentage, not a bar, but percentage progress. And for your info, you can stop and pause a job at any time. So if you have a big, let's say, test data creation ongoing, and the developer or someone who needs to test complains about the performance or something like that, you can stop or pause a job. Okay, so I have another scan here finished. So let me close the scanner again. And now I could just copy the Mixit from the previous one, the 1-to-1 Mixit. I call it metadata, or vice versa, limit metadata. And I choose the file scan we just did and select all objects. And then I go into the transformation rules, and now I first change again the target documentum object link. So in this case, I will call it limit metadata, so it creates another cabinet, hopefully. And then here I show you a little bit more about the manipulation of rules values. So for example, we may say the easiest one is, it's just an example, but let's take department, and we don't want to populate the department value or attribute value in the test system. So we just go ahead and click on the get value function, which is getting the original department value here from source attributes. And now I will just use user value and put something in here like maybe concealed, right? Or you can put everything in there, like you have maybe security classes and you call it security class A. You can even put something, please ask the IT for that attribute or something like that, right? But it should just an example that you can put everything in here. It's also not limited to a user value, like a hard-coded value. You can also get other, like with these functions here, you have access to all the other attributes as well, right? You could put any other kind of attribute in there, or even use a mapping list to change that value to something more specific, depending on the value or based on the value. So you're totally flexible to do that. And another one is maybe to just remove a rule completely. And when I remove that rule, it will also remove that attribute. So now I removed the customer ID from that run. Okay, we can leave it with that for the moment. So let's just save the values, apply the transformation and validation, and then go ahead and run it with our importer. So like that. So that was first run. That is our run now, and we can have a look in Documentum. And now we have test data with limited metadata. Let's have a look to one object maybe, and see if we can find custom ID is empty. Okay, we removed that one, and we have department concealed. So this is now, yeah, a successful finished test run with limited metadata. So you can imagine with our transformation engine and all these functions, you can really create any kind of combination of attributes. So they fulfill the requirements for the test data system or obey the rules. Okay, so yeah, let's keep it like that. And I want to make a third example. So they should be finished. Okay. I want to make a third example with the content. So let's copy that scanner again. And we copy another path here. These customer projects. So we scan that folder, and yeah, at this point we could say to skip the content. Like this is a parameter here, so the Documentum scanner will not pick the content anyway, so it will only grab the object and the metadata. But for this demo, I will leave it like this because I want to show you how to change the content location and put a dummy document in there. Okay, save that one with, okay, maybe call it dummy content at this point and run it. Okay, now it collects the other documents here. We can close the scanner window already and go to the Mixit view. And now I again copy my originally 1-by-1 Mixit and call it test data dummy content. I select the previous made scan. So I go again into the transformation rules editor. And first I change again the object links, the target location, and this time we can call it test data dummy content as an example. Save that one. And also, yeah, the attributes is here 1-by-1. We could remove them or we can change them, whatever. You can anyway combine these three Mixit into one, right? With the logic in Migration Center, like if and else and all the other functions, also mapping list. You can build really a rule set which allows you to put all the documents from the productive source system into that Mixit. And then with those rules and depending on the target location, a test system or development system, you can have rules which decide basically depending on those values, which attribute should be shown and which attribute should be concealed, and if and which content content file should be used. Right, so you don't need to do that manually after you've created those Mixit and those transformation rules once. If they are in place, you can just reuse them also in a scheduler, which I will show you as well. And the Mixit basically itself decides, okay, for this target location, I can take this content and need to conceal that attribute value. For another location, I have to leave the content completely out and maybe take another attribute or leave another attribute out. Okay, so yeah, but for this we leave the attributes in, but what we want to change is the content location, right? So we have one system attribute down here, which is the content location. So that tells the importer to grab a specific content from created or extracted by the scanner. And this is the original location, and now we can change it or we can remove it. But in this case, I want to change it to a dummy file, which is on this file system here, like it's called dummy.x. And so now for every object of these 160 objects, it will just take that dummy Word document as content. So you don't have the original content anywhere populated. You don't have it in the test or dev system. Okay, save that one. Do the validation and transformation, and then we go again with our importer. We append or add our dummy content mixer to it and run. Now it's running, and we can have a look in the target system. And now we have dummy content here, and maybe we can have a look. I don't know if the system supports it here, but maybe let's try. So we take that one. It opens here, okay. And you see it's my created dummy content file. So the original content is not in our test data Mixit with our dummy content Mixit. Okay, so yeah, as I said, all these three cabinets are cabinets in this demo, but you can imagine they are real repositories or other cabinets or even other platforms like OpenText or Alfresco or SharePoint or whatever it is, or a file share even. So you can also populate the content in the way I showed you on any other platform like this. Okay, what else? I wanted to show you the scheduler. So maybe we create one scheduler. So yeah, as an example, I will use the 1-by-1 Mixit, and I will now create a scheduler for it. So yeah, that the case could be I now created the test data in our dev system, and I want to update the test data every 3 months in the same way I just imported it, right? So I called it test data scheduler maybe. So I will not have it active right now. So then I just select my migration set, which I previously created. So I take full copy here as an example. Then I can select the scanner, that was this one, and I have the importer. And here I can also add an email address in case of error or in case of success. And then I can choose the interval. So I can choose which start date it should have, how often it should be run, or the frequency that it runs every 5 or X minutes, hours, days, weeks, or months. So you can also run it in the background once a year. So you update the test data every year on Christmas, for example. Okay, in this case, I will leave it at 5 because I will run that scheduler manually. But now I have created here one, and now I want to change something in the source because otherwise we would not get any updated content. So let me just go ahead and go into our first folder, just as an example. So if new documents are here or change documents, documents are changed, so the Migration Center will pick them up as an update object and then automatically updates the target location. So let me just change something to see how it works. So maybe we take the department and we just put a very stupid, but for the example, enough value in here. So it's business services worldwide. So we changed one attribute, but it's also detecting if you change the content, right? Or if you create a new version, if you create relations or renditions, or whatever the features are in the corresponding platform you're creating test data out of. So now when I run the scheduler, it should activate that scanner here, and the Mixit, which we previously used this one, and create another one. It's already done, and use that importer. So let me close the windows again. And we see we have one object, and it is imported. So we can also see in history in the scheduler, like finished one object, okay, one object, and we can see our test data. Oh no, that was the wrong one, like that one here, and we see the first document from here, I think it was it. So properties. No, that was not the one, maybe. Let me check. Contracts. Actually modified, yeah, that one has to be modified, so we can, I guess we see that. And we changed it only the attribute value department, business services worldwide. But you can imagine if you run that every 3 months or every year, it will definitely, I mean, there will be more changes, updates, and new documents, and maybe even a change of the metadata set or object type definition. So also their Migration Center can automatically collect all the new attributes and set them accordingly. You may adapt the migration set at some point, but normally, as I said, you create it once, you create the migration sets, and then you can let them run several times, or each 3 months or whatever, and it will be done automated and in the background. Right, that was it for the demo. I will switch back to the PowerPoint. And I have only one more slide for you. So this is our solution overview. Just that you have seen it once. Maybe you know that Migration Center supports many different platforms. I told you in the beginning, but here's a concrete list. Like we have source and target connectors within our job server. And you see we really support all the big vendors like OpenText, Documentum or X Documentum, Viva, Fresco, IBM, Domino, FileNet, Microsoft. Emails and SharePoint, OpenText, right? And also generic solutions like on both sides, we have the file share scanner and the SQL database scanner, which is usable for legacy applications. But okay, normally you don't have legacy applications and create test data out of those. But all these, in general, all these connectors can be used and utilized to create and generate test data for you. And it must not be, I mean, the same system. I mean, most of the times it makes sense because you have test data in one source system and you want that in a dev system of that platform. But in general, it's very flexible. So all these adapters supports the test case or the case test data test management, test data management. And they work very similar what I've shown you. So they in Migration Center, it's very generic. So it's not, it doesn't matter which connector is being used. It always looks very similar in Migration Center, and the process is the same. And also the scheduler works for each and every platform pass. Okay, with that said, through with the slides and the demo. So if, yeah, as I said already, if you have any questions, ask them in the questions panel, and I give over to Mark again.
Yeah, thank you, Mike. Thank you for the presentation and the live demo and those insights. As Mike mentioned, it's about time to go to the Q&A session. But before that, let me do one quick slide to show you our websites and our upcoming webinars. We offer 3 different websites, whereas 2 of them are more focused towards our services portfolio, which would be fme.de and fme-us.com. And then we have our dedicated product website, which is migration migrationcenter.com. And on there, you find many of the product features Mike mentioned, success stories from former customers, our service portfolio as well, some of our past webinars as recordings. We have a content migration blog, which is pretty good. And most importantly, we offer a free evaluation copy, which is just like a free trial of Migration Center with a 14-day trial period and the full functionality, which you can request on this website. And lastly, we have another webinar this month. This is about migrating rare ECM systems to Microsoft SharePoint Online with the Migration Center database connector Mike just mentioned, which will be conducted on March 25th at 11 a.m. EST or 4 p.m. CET. That's it from our side. That is our last slide for today. Thank you for attending. We hope to see you again soon in another webinar or whenever you reach out to us through our sales contact form. And other than that, let me wish you a great rest of the day and hope to see you again soon. Thanks a lot for attending. Bye-bye.
Yes, also from my side, thanks for your time, thanks for attending, and see you again soon. Bye-bye.